After the first interview, when I got home, you know, it triggered loads of memories off for me. A lot of really lovely ones after all the trauma we talked about.
Oh, wow.
And I can remember the stories my father used to tell me.
Oh.
So he was from Lagos, and his name was Tiamiyu Tinubu. And he said, you come from a very, very long line of kings and queens.
Like you do.
Yeah, it's a very, very famous name, he said. And there's Tinubu Square in Lagos. And he gave me a history book with all the information about his mother, who was a trader in tobacco and cloth and quite a wealthy woman.
Wow.
And then he talked about, she always sent him away to Muslim school, and they were very, very strict. And they used to beat them if they got parts of the Quran wrong. This Muslim school went on for years, and then one day his friend said, there's a ship coming in at the docks.
Oh, no.
And at this time my father was 14, and he said, let's go down to the docks and we can dive in the water for the white men, because they gave them money.
Yeah.
They threw coins in the water and gave them, they'd dive in and get the coins, and they could keep them. These are the stories he's telling me.
Yeah.
And I'd be fascinated, sat there, you know, loving it. And they went down to the docks, and there was ships that had come in from the UK, cargo ships, picking up, I think, pineapples and coconuts and transporting them back.
Yeah. Exotic fruits.
Yeah, exotic fruits. And he stayed. He was a stowaway.
On his own?
They got him and this his friend. I don't know. He never mentioned. He must have mentioned his friend's name, but I can't remember. So he was a stowaway. But you know, I researched it. Yeah. I found all the documentation a few months ago, and the first place that this ship docked from Nigeria was Mombasa.
Wow.
And then on to Southampton. And then on to Southampton, and the forwarding address on the documentation on Ancestry.com was 34 Shakespeare Street, Tiamiyu, Tinubu. And there was lots of other Africans going to Manchester, some going to Salford, some going to London from this particular ship. So I researched the ship.
Yeah.
It was a cargo ship, but it was also a warship.
Right.
Absolutely fascinating. So I'm in the process of doing all that now. In fact, I was at Central Library yesterday. So that was one story he told me. So he never did go back home.
He never seen his
mother again. Now, I found a couple of letters from his mother. Absolutely heartbroken, but then she got used to the idea. And in one of the letters it said, please don't go with them white women.
It's too late, missus.
Too late, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, please don't go with them white women. Yeah, absolutely fascinating history.
Really?
He was one of, right, his father had 3 wives.
Yeah.
My father's mother was the first wife, and there was 2 wives after that. So my father had 2 sisters and 1 brother to the same father, but then the other 2 wives had other children as well. His father died at a very, very early age, but my father said he can't remember what his father died of. And then I found a letter when his mother had died.
Aww.
And then I found a little diary to say my mother died today. Aww. And he was really, really upset, because I think he felt bad. She thought he was at Muslim school, and he'd run away, and he was a stowaway.
That's crazy.
When I look at the documentation, his job on this particular ship was he was a stoker.
Right, like Lati.
Like Lati, he was a stoker. Must have been a very, very hard job. And then they gave comments, very good, very hard working.
About your dad?
Yeah, well, about all of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, right, like the slaves.
Like the slaves, very hard working. Oh. But I can remember my dad saying it was really hard work.
I bet it was.
It was
the
hot.
Heat.
The heat.
Yeah.
And it was endless, the work.
Because it would be non-ending to keep it going across that sea. Yeah. That's insane. Go
Absolutely.
On.
Another story he told me was he remembers the first train he ever saw pulling into this Lagos railway place. And all the kids run, don't they?
Yeah. With that little mad African way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And white people in the window.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
And he said it was the first time he saw false teeth. And I said,
but how would he know?
What do you mean? He says there was two white men sat in a carriage. Now, whether this is true or not, I don't know. And they were waving to the children, and one of them took his teeth out and put them. And my dad said he jumped and was like...
No, he might have done, though, just to take the piss, the guy, you know, because he knew it would be funny.
He couldn't believe... He said, I couldn't believe people had these false teeth. That was another story. Another story he told me, which I absolutely loved. I was mesmerised. He said, we had big gorillas in our village. He said, and they used to have top hats on and smoke cigars. So my imagination was like, oh, wow. So I used to love stories like that.
Do you think that was true, the gorillas in the...
Not with top hats and smoke. Might have had gorillas in
I've seen chimps smoke, though. Not you know, like in like freak settings. Do you know what I mean?
I think he was just telling me stories to get me interested in where he came from and to get a good understanding.
Yeah. My dad used to tell us about Katie Duppy, who is Jamaican. You know, like and say that she walked with her head backwards. You know, like no, exactly.
Yeah, you see, I love stories like that.
Go back a minute, Anne. When's your dad born? So when he sees this train, when he's like getting
I'll just tell you something now. He never. Well, he lied about his age. He was about 25 years older than my mother. But when I found all the documentation, he was born in the First World War, 1914, the 6th of May, 1914. See how me you telling him.
That is the actual beginning of the war, I think. You know, around May. Hey,
unbelievable.
So he was well for his age.
Yeah.
Jesus.
Yeah. Because he always ate his own food as well, you know. And I can remember when we were little, every 6 months he'd go to Liverpool docks and he'd receive a great big barrel, and it's what his family had sent him from Nigeria, and it'd have pineapples, coconut, it'd have all Gary, rice,
so
jam.
they must have been well off then to afford
to
afford to buy the bulk and the carriage of it.
Yeah, and then they'd send him lovely African tops and robes. And of a weekend, my father always wore his own clothes, always.
Yeah.
On a Saturday and Sunday, and I loved my dad in his own clothes, and my mother did.
Did she?
She said, oh, he's handsome. You know,
did she?
Yeah, he's a good-looking fella, and he's stocky, you know. He was a stocky man, but he always ate his own food. And what I used to love is, when he made African food, we'd sit together, including my mum, because this is happy memories now. Because I remember you saying, was there any happy times? Yeah. And I remember saying, I can't think, Linda, they're not even worth mentioning, but they are worth mentioning.
Yeah, absolutely.
And he'd make Gary and fufu, and we'd eat with our hands, and he'd say, this is how we eat. I used to love it. And he'd break little balls off for me and say, dip it in the soup. And then he'd learn me how to roll the balls of Gary and semolina and fufu. And we'd eat it. And I used to love it, absolutely love it.
So he was bothered about you having your culture then, wasn't he?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Everything was about Nigeria. And I remember he always used to play this song at weekend, and it was called No Place Be Like My Country. And he'd put it on and he'd be singing the words out loud in English. No place be like Nigeria. No place be like my country. My mother and father, they come from Nigeria. Very proud.
Well, why did he never go back?
He did go back.
Oh, I thought you said he didn't.
No, he did go back when he was about, I'd say when he was about 60, but he might have been about 70.
Yeah, for all anybody knows.
Yes, he did go back.
Right.
He did go back to see his family, and he said, and you must go also.
Have you been on?
Yes.
Yeah?
Yeah, I went with Brian and Io Deli and Lisa.
Oh, I don't remember that.
Yeah, we went. Yeah, we went, and it was it was just fantastic. Absolutely fantastic.
So when was this? When did you go back?
This would have been in it might have been about 1977.
Oh, I don't remember that.
Yes, me and Brian went. Yeah.
Wow. So you'd be one of the first that went to Africa off the mixed race then?
Yes.
Yeah.
And we went to a place where my family originally originated from, and it was called Ile-Ife.
Right.
Ileife. Ile-Ife.
Right.
And it was all red rock and sand. Absolutely lovely. Absolutely lovely. We loved it.
And what's the area known for?
I think very famous bronze statues.
Like the African statues?
Yes, I think Benin is the most famous place for these beautiful bronze statues. I think for statues, I think so. I'd have to research it. Yeah.
So they didn't grow food or nothing with this red earth?
Oh, well, yes, they got yam. Yes, they grew their own food. Absolutely pure food, no chemicals, absolutely lovely. Very fertile land. That's why they call it Mama Africa, isn't it?
Yeah, it's amazing that, because it doesn't look fertile.
Very fertile. Wow. All green, very, very fertile. Wow. And then we stayed for a time in Lagos City, and that was hard. That was rough. What's that? Oh, yeah. That was really,
was it?
Yeah.
Yeah, when I went to Jamaica in 74, my dad sent me, like you got put on a coach, I got put on a plane. Age 14. Yeah. Oh, why was this? Oh, yeah. But he's from rural Jamaica, right in the middle, real proper poverty, but grow up their own food. Poverty that kind of don't matter that it's poor. But Kingston was rough, man.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, Lagos was rough. And my uncle used to say the bandits and all sorts, really, really rough. I remember as well, travelling on the road to Ile-Ife.
You and
Brian. It was a long, and I, Odell and Lisa. Boiling hot day, and then I got this smell. And it was absolutely putrid. And I said to my uncle, what's that smell? And he said, you see that overturned car over there?
Don't.
So I said, yeah. He says, that'll be the rotting bodies. Nobody stops on this road.
Right.
And they'll be rotting. And it was awful. And I've never ever forgot it. Never forgot that smell. And then I couldn't wait to get to Ile-Ife because of bandits on the road, Really, really, really tough. But I didn't go with my father. He went on his own. And when he did come back from Nigeria, he was so mellow and so happy.
Oh, was he? My dad was, funnily enough, when he first went back to Jamaica, it only lasted like a month or something, but he was like a different man.
Yeah.
Like you say, all mellow and
all
stuff.
Mellow.
Yeah.
Well, my father hadn't been home since he was 14 years old.
Wow.
And what
40-something years.
Yeah, 40 odd years. And what I loved hearing my dad speak Yoruba.
Right.
His own language. And to this day, if I'm in city centre or around any Africans in earshot, I know if it's Yoruba.
Yeah.
I just know.
Yeah.
And that innate thing that
it's
happens.
Your blood.
Yeah.
It's
I
your
just
blood.
know and I love it.
Yeah.
Absolutely love it.
Yeah.
And I used to have to say good morning to my father in Yoruba.
Did you? Do it then.
Ekaro, Odaro, Shalafiani, Adupeo. He said, Joko, sit down. Yeah, and please may I leave the table. He was very punctilious, manners.
Yeah.
He said, I want to be able to take you anywhere.
Oh.
Yeah. And my mother never interfered with that. She said, yeah.
See, there was lovely
There was lovely times, actually.
Yeah.
And my mother said, you need that. But then she'd say things like, you prefer the African side. you prefer the African side to our side. No, said, it's just my dad, But I did, actually.
Did you?
Yeah, of course I did. Yeah, but that was a sense of belonging as well.
Right.
I felt proud and in these veins, this Yoruba blood.
Paul Collins is gonna love you, Mum.
Yoruba blood, yeah. And then my auntie married a Nigerian man, and he was Igbo.
Okay.
And he was very gentle, very beautiful.
This is Barry.
This is Barry's mum and dad, yeah.
So do you think is there animosity between Igbo and Yoruba?
From what I've read, yes. the Yoruba, there's Yoruba, Igbo and Hausa. And from what I've read, it seems that the Yoruba tribal feel they're the better ones.
Do they?
Not saying they are, but they feel, the more powerful, more stronger ones.
More aggressive.
That was my experience,
Yeah, that's been my experience as well,
more aggressive, more forceful.
Yeah.
The Yoruba, you know, but and the
So I don't understand, is it a region or a tribe? What is it? Does Igbo and Yoruba mean?
I'm not sure, you know,
what
it means, but I will look it up.
Yeah, is it a creed or a tribe or do you know what I mean? Is it like Jew or
I think
or region?
In my head, they're tribes.
Yeah.
I think the Yoruba are a massive tribe all over Africa.
Yeah.
Igbo and Hausa may be smaller.
Right.
And when I did see Hausa in Lagos, they seemed more fez hats.
Oh, okay.
Like
Arabic.
Yeah. But that's how they seem. And the Igbo seem more lighter in skin colour.
Okay.
A little bit. That was my experience.
How would you know? Like you just said, did they have a uniform to distinguish, like the fez hat? Did they deliberately distinguish themselves?
Well,
from each
it was
other?
only through my uncle,
right,
who said he's Hausa,
right,
he's Igbo, and then I got used to it, and I used to think, I bet he's Hausa, and I bet he's Igbo.
Right.
So that was the only way. That was the only way that, you know, through being told and then looking, assimilating it and thinking, right, you know. But it was really, really interesting. He gave me loads of information, actually, my father. And for a while, my father lived, when he first came here, before Shakespeare Street, that was it.
Where's Shakespeare Street before you move on?
Plymouth Grove and Hardwick.
Right.
34 Shakespeare Street. And we all lived in rooms. Yeah. And I think we lived on the top floor. My Auntie Pat and my Uncle George lived on the middle floor, and there were some other Africans that lived on the ground floor. And I know it was a big gambling place. They used to come there and gamble. And I think there was a couple of shootings in the house.
Because of the gambling?
Oh, well, yeah. It will have been because of the gambling, And we were all born there.
You were born in a house?
1947, Samuel, my first brother was born, Samuel Kolawole, because my father insisted that we all have African names. Okay. And my mother said, but I want them to have an English name as well.
That would have been a terrible, Kolawole would have been a terrible name in school. Go on. Okay. He won it. Yeah.
Samuel Kolawole.
Yeah.
No, Samuel Olariwaju. And then it was David Kolawole. Yeah. And then it was Anne Eva Mariamo.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
Spell Mariamo.
Marioma. Mariamo. Oh, Mariamo, not A. O at the end.
Wow.
Yeah. And then my father insisted that all my children have Yoruba names. So Leon Ayodele.
Yeah.
Abdullahi Adekunle.
What's Lisa's?
Lisa Mariamo.
Oh, is she?
And Louise Mengi Sherifatu. She said, "Why, Mum? Why?" You know, please, why?
Yeah.
I said, I didn't have any choice. They must all have African names.
Wow. Why?
No, Lisa, not Mariamo. That's mine. Ajuke.
Yeah.
Ajuke.
Yeah.
Lisa Ajuke. Lisa Maria Ajuke.
What does your middle name mean? Because they always have meaning.
Beautiful daughter.
Oh, does it?
Yeah. So, I mean, my father, he was strict and he didn't show any love. And my father preferred boys to girls and my mother preferred boys to girls. Okay. But I knew instinctively that they loved me in their own way. I just knew.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just knew. So, there were happy times.
Yeah.
And my father would talk about Liverpool.
Why?
And he said he lived in Liverpool 8. Yeah.
Go on, I'm listening.
Yeah, he lived in Liverpool 8, and he told me there was some race riots in 1947, he said. Yeah, and he lived Upper Parliament Street.
Yeah.
And all the Africans lived in Upper Parliament Street. So I went.
Yeah. Just recently?
No, about 3 years ago.
Okay.
And I found Upper Parliament Street, but I can't. And all the houses are still there, but I can't find the number that he lived at. So I'll have to go on the electrical roll in Liverpool.
Yeah. What are you going to do with all your information that you find?
I'm going to do the family tree.
Yeah.
As far back as I can go.
Oh, wow.
Because I said to my father, did you ever have a birth certificate? And he said, no. I said, well, how do you know when you were born? He said, verbal, we tell stories.
Wow.
We tell stories and it'll be marked on a tree somewhere.
So your next door is like in Africa looking at trees.
I thought, oh, okay. Well, you just accept it as children, don't you? It's like, oh,
no,
okay.
but that was their way in 1914. That was
1914.
Yeah.
And I thought, you've lied all these years.
Wow.
You're about 80 or 90.
So he'd be 102 if he was alive.
Yeah. And my mum was, well, if he was 1914, my mum was born in 1921.
So it's not that bad. 7 years.
No.
He's 7 years older than him.
No. 1920. No, I can't remember 19.
No, it can't be. My mum was born in 1926 and she was older than your mum. Well, she looked it anyway.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
Can't remember the year that was born.
No, that's not the first African lie about their age I've heard in these stories.
God.
Yeah.
It's like, 1914. And he died in 1984. 1983 or 1984.
I can't believe that. He was only 70. He died that far back on.
Yeah, but he'd only been 70. So you don't know, do you? You really don't know. But he always taught me to save. He was a very good saver. And he said, you always put money away and set me up with a bank account. So I could always save. And he always worked, my father. And when he did give up sea, he got a job on the railway. And he worked at Central Station as a shunter.
Did he?
And then he worked at Victoria as a shunter. And me and my mother used to go when he worked at Central Station on a Friday for his wages. And then go and buy food.
Oh.
Yeah, he'd give his wages. I don't know if he'd give them all, but then we'd go and buy, me and my mum would go and buy food.
How long were they together, Anne? I was thinking about that this morning.
On and off over the years.
Yeah.
My mum said she met him when she was, I think she said she was about 17. And my father had just come in off sea. And she met him in a pub called, I think it's near the Manchester Royal Infirmary. I think it's called I don't know if it's called the Grove now.
The Grafton.
The Grafton.
Well, you're not going to believe this.
She met him there, the Grafton pub, yeah.
My mum and dad met in the Grafton.
Right.
Yeah.
So it must have been frequent, black men must have frequently gone there.
Well, you're just round the corner in wherever you are.
Shakespeare Street.
Yeah, you're just round the corner. I was born in Hospital, but my mum and dad lived on Grafton Street, and that's just round the corner.
Right.
And there was all like January, February, March streets and all that.
That's
and
right.
I remember that must have been an area that allowed blacks. That whole area.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there was loads of black families round. Yeah, both African and Jamaican. I remember that. As a kid, even age 3.
Now I remember an incident, and I think we lived in somewhere called Cleveland Court.
Yeah.
No idea where it is. I assume it's near the dental hospital. And I remember, I don't know how old I was, but there was a knock on the door. And I must have come downstairs, and there was newspaper on the table with an oil lamp, dingy yellow light.
Yeah.
And I must have been tiny, and I must have got a chair, took it to the front door and opened it.
Yeah.
And I can remember seeing lots and lots of snow and this big tall black man.
Wow.
And he said, I think he said, hello, Miss Tinnenboot, is your mummy and daddy in? And I said, no. I don't, no. He said, oh, okay, you close the door. And I remember closing the door, then opening again and peeping if he'd gone, and he had. And I played out in the snow.
Oh, wow. But they must have been in.
No.
He was just in the
No, I'll
house.
tell you why they weren't in. Because they had an Irish family next door, and she had about 14 kids, and her name was Bridie. And she came out and said, Anne, you've no shoes on. Evan, come in here. Where's your mum? And Dad, and I must have said, I don't know. And I remember her putting me to bed with loads of other kids and these big thick coats on the bed.
Oh.
Right. And that was it.
Yeah.
And then the next morning, when I came down with all these kids, my mum was sat having a cup of tea with Bridie, and I must have just played in the snow. My mum and Dad have come home. Oh my God, Anne's not here. Not on Bridie's.
Right, yeah, of course.
She's in bed asleep. So they'd gone out. The story is they'd gone out for a drink, but I was fast asleep when they'd gone out.
Right.
Yeah.
Imagine doing that today.
Yeah.
You'd be all over the Manchester Evening News.
Yeah, but your child.
Yeah, you'd have been put in care.
Straight
Your mum would
away.
have been, like a real close-up on the Manchester Evening News, especially with the black man, to make sure everyone knew she was a real, no good.
She's no good, this white woman. Yeah.
Did they make sure he looked angry, in the picture? Yeah, so he's a wild black man and no good white woman. And then you did make sure your picture was really innocent and lost on the way to care.
On the way to care,
Yeah.
And I can remember my father always cut my hair with a basin.
Did he?
Like they do in Africa.
Oh.
And he used to say, but Dad, no, basin cut. I mean, and I've got pictures, you know what I mean? And my mother used to, well, she said she felt sorry for me, but no, basin cut. And we always had to eat at the table. And please, may I leave the table?
You see, but the story you're telling today seems very much like they were very much in love.
It was a very volatile relationship that they had.
Yeah.
Because don't forget, with my mum and her Irish background, she, her nana, her Irish nana, once she found out my mum was with a black man, my Irish nana was quite wealthy, according to my mother. Now, I've got some lovely pictures of my Irish great nana.
Okay.
And laden with lovely gold and jewellery and stuff. And she used to be a pawnbroker. So people who had no money, they could pawn, and she'd give them the money and cut my mother and my Auntie Pat, my mum's sister, out of the will because they were with black men. And my mother was completely ostracised from the Irish side then, completely.
Wow.
Yeah. Her mother, her own mother would be, my nan, would be okay with her, but you have to have permission, as I've said, to come down. But my mother's grandmother, never again. That was it, never again.
Wow.
That was it.
But you come on both sides of your family, you come from money.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. It was money then, not now, but then
No, but still, it's business people. It's strong.
Yeah, business people, yeah.
And matriarchal business people as well. Because you've not mentioned your granddad's having businesses.
No,
on both sides. You've talked about your great-grandma having businesses.
My African grandma, trader in tobacco and cloth.
Yeah.
My great-grandma, pawnbroker. Got pictures of her.
That's amazing.
It's fantastic, the pictures I've got of her. And I've got my great-granddad stood behind her. She's sat there, Victorian, with all this gold on.
Yeah.
She's got my great-granddad stood behind her, very Victorian.
Yeah, well, I've got to see these.
I'll show you the picture. Yeah. She has a child on her knee called Mary. She has a child in Victorian dress stood at the side of her. And then she has a little boy stood on the chair. The child stood at the side of her is Eileen. The child on her knee is Mary. The little boy stood at the side of his father is my granddad in Victorian dress, and he must be about 5 or 6. And he's absolutely gorgeous.
That's
He's lovely.
that's so
It's a
fabulous.
beautiful photograph.
And there won't be pictures of the African side, will there?
I do.
Really?
Yes.
You've got to do something with them stood side by side.
Right. And I do have them side by side in my bedroom.
Right.
I have a picture of my grandma, my mum's dad.
Yeah.
And I have his 2 sisters on either side.
Oh, a similar setup.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mariamo, and I can't remember the name of the other one. And when I look at the picture of my grandma, I can see my dad, and he adored her.
Oh.
But he never wanted to go back. He wanted to make a life for himself. So he stowed away.
Do you think he was embarrassed that he didn't do better for himself, and that's why he didn't go back?
I'm not sure. He never ever talked about that. I know he ended up doing a chef course. I mean, he worked on the railway, and then he ended up doing lots of courses at college. And
Did he? So he was ambitious.
A brilliant cook, very ambitious, very, very ambitious.
Yeah.
Very ambitious. And he travelled to many countries in the world. Because
Well,
I've got all his passports.
Wow.
Yeah, and I've also got...
God, he's quite a character.
Yeah. He saved everything, you see, and he had a great big trunk what he bought in America, and I think they're worth a fortune now, and I've still got it. And I had to get one of my friends, her husband's a locksmith, because I couldn't find the key, to open the trunk, which he did about 2 years ago, and he opened the trunk for me, and oh my God, there was a wealth of history and information in this trunk.
Wow.
So what was in the trunk was my father's war medals.
Wow.
The first woman he married.
What's his war medals? What do you mean?
From being in the Merchant Navy.
Okay.
Yeah, he had war medals.
Yeah.
There was information about when he got torpedoed by this Italian U-boat, and which boat he was on when he got torpedoed, and he'd lost half a foot.
Oh, I forgot about that.
Yeah. So there was all that, which hospital he was in, how long they were on sea in a dinghy. All that information is there. And then I've got his book, his Merchant Sea book, with all the ships he was on, the Elder Dempster Line, different ships.
That's amazing.
The Empire Star, all the ships, all the dates. I just need to go to Liverpool Maritime Museum and get all the information. So he left a wealth of history for me, all there.
That's just
all in immaculate order. He even left a ration book for the Merchant Navy, and there are some stamps missing, and it looks like 2 stamps for a balaclava, so that was missing.
Okay.
4 stamps for a big thick jumper for the sea. 4 stamps were missing. 1 stamp for a pair of gloves, and I've still got that. Yeah,
that's astonishing.
Absolutely amazing.
That you need to give that to someone.
Yeah, I was thinking.
So that you need to, I don't know who. It needs to be stored forever.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And just this book and his photo when he was so young, so handsome. He looks like, it just made me cry. I thought, look at you, you know.
Yeah.
Just there, black skin, black eyes and black hair. That was the description that they...
But what's lovely, this is going to sound so racist and so unbelievable, but what's lovely is you're telling me the story of a man. It's irrelevant his colour that you're talking to me about now. Yeah. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
And
yeah, it's irrelevant.
It's irrelevant his colour. What you're talking about is a man that's got that. This sounds pathetic, but that has emotions that want to say these things that log his life.
Yeah. Now he did have a few psychological problems, which my mother said he carried. Must have been from the war, slightly post-traumatic stress.
Okay. Well, if you've lost half a foot, you're torpedoed.
Now, my father always stored newspapers.
Did he?
We had cupboards full of newspapers. And I said, one day, why do you keep storing all these newspapers? He said, that's what we use to keep us warm. Newspapers kept us warm. We put them in our shoes. And we put them in round our backs.
Shit.
I said, well, you don't need them now. He said, yes, I do. I said, oh, okay.
Wow.
Just stored and stored.
So
Newspapers from 1940 odd. Wow. Kept them and kept them and kept them.
Have you still got them?
No. Threw them all away.
Yeah.
Threw them all away. You know, but letters, reams and reams of letters from different Africans in Manchester. You
I
know,
think you don't. Have you still got them? Though?
Yeah. Benjamin Aragbody, Wilfred E. Coley, lots of different, you know.
That's amazing that they was writing to each other. Because
Yeah.
what everything, how I'm sat here feeling is just completely racist, and I know it's racist, but we just don't know them as men.
No.
Do you know what I mean? And what you're telling me is making me see your dad as a man.
Yeah.
You know,
Yes.
like just as a man. With,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's the only way I can say it.
Yeah.
And, you know, writing to his friends or whatever, whoever he's writing to, and having that psychological problem to need newspaper because he never knows when what has happened is going to happen again.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
It must have been, well, newspapers, do they keep you warm? I don't know.
Well, I don't
They
know.
must have done. Just loads and loads of newspapers.
Yeah, but look at what he used his rations for.
Yeah.
You know, like
Yeah,
clothes
so
to
it's
keep you
balaclava.
warm. He's from Africa. He's
Yeah.
out in the sea. It must be bloody freezing.
Yeah.
So, I don't know, anything more to
Absolutely.
keep you warm.
Now, he was torpedoed twice, so we
Right.
saw many Africans lose their life, you
Wow.
know. And my mother said he used to scream a lot in his sleep. Post-traumatic stress and loud noises. He'd jump, loud
Wow.
noises.
Well, can you imagine a torpedo hitting your ship
Mm.
and lost their lives in the hit of the torpedo or drowned? Did the
I-
ships actually go down?
I think the ship drowned.
Wow.
Drowned. Yeah. Some saved and some drowned. Awful. And there's just the screams of these African. Awful. It's really, really awful. But I don't think merchant seamen got the same recognition as the Royal Navy. But they actually carried all the ammunition and the food and everything.
Yeah, because an army needs food.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. So my father always said he had a fascinating life.
Yeah.
And that was through travel. And he also said his greatest education was travelling. And for him, that was the university of life.
Yeah.
And that's what he said. That was my university.
Oh.
The merchant sea, the merchant, you know, the merchant navy. That was his university. So I said, okay. It was very interesting. Very, very interesting. And I always wanted to be... my father was very domineering.
Yeah.
And he chose my career and everything. I always wanted to be a vet. But obviously back then...
What did he choose for you?
Secretary.
Okay.
And I wasn't one for an office.
Yeah.
And I wasn't one for shorthand and typing. But I had to do it. But for a while.
Yeah.
And then I gave it up and certain things happened in my life and there we go. And I'd still love to have been a vet to this day, but it wasn't accessible to black children then. So I did have high aspirations as little as I was, but it was, you've got no chance.
But you come from both sides of aspiration. Your blood is aspirational.
Yeah, but you know what? Now you've said it, I never saw it like that.
Wow.
When you've just said you come from quite powerful matriarchal backgrounds. Certainly with my father's mother and my great-grandmother, and you're absolutely right.
Mm.
Which makes me want to research it even more now.
I want to see what you're going to do with it. It sounds amazing. You definitely got to
I've got
find
to do something
somebody
with it.
where you put them for safety, all that your dad left.
Yes. And I've also got this is huge bag. And when I looked in it, it's just a huge bag of coins.
Wow, from all over the world.
From all over the world. I don't know if they're worth any. It's just a huge bag of coins.
you could get a kind person to help you and make it part of his story.
Yeah. And then I found a wallet. And when I opened the wallet, it was stamps, just lots and lots of stamps. And I don't know what it's like.
But he's just logging his life.
Yes.
Isn't he? He's logging his moments in his life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I found a very, very old black and white picture. And he's in South America. I can't remember which area. And he's sat at this table. He's got a trilby on and a cigar.
Wow.
And he's sat with a Latino. He sat with a South American woman.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming that was his woman.
At the time.
At the time. And I used to say, out of all the countries you've been to, which was your favourite? Dad. I'd call him Daddy. And he used to say, South America.
Oh.
We always said South America.
Was it? So, and then again, that says that he loves your mum now. Because look at all them places, all them women, and he kept coming back to her.
Well, then I found two marriage certificates. Obviously, my mum and dad's, the wedding that I went to, getting the cakes, can't wait. Then I found another marriage certificate, and he was married to a woman called Alice Lee.
Yeah.
And he married Alice when she was 16.
Right.
And they got married at Manchester Registrar.
Oh, so he was... Go on. So he's a bigamist?
No.
Go on.
Alice, right?
Yeah.
Because then I found Alice's death certificate.
Oh, shit.
So he's married to this Alice Lee. And then I found a lovely photograph of Alice. Very, very young. Black and white. Lovely face. So I researched it. And Alice Lee was the sister of Mrs. Pereira, Margaret Pereira.
Oh no.
The Pereiras.
Such a small world, yeah.
The Pereira's mum,
yeah.
Margaret Pereira. And I looked again through the photographs and I found a picture of Mrs. Pereira and Mr. Pereira. And Mr. Pereira's got his African clothes on.
Yeah.
And they're sat at the table having a drink. And then I found a letter from Margaret to Alice.
Yeah.
Just fascinating history.
Unbelievable.
Unbelievable history. Yeah.
And this is invaluable.
Yes.
That all that stuff is invaluable.
And Mr. Pereira.
You need a historian to help you put it together.
Yeah. Mr. Pereira's sister in Nigeria married my dad's brother.
Wow.
And then my dad ends up marrying Mrs. Pereira's sister, Margaret.
Wow.
You know, it's fascinating. And then I found pictures of Tony and John and Frank and Phil when they were little at our house.
Yeah.
And me. And then I found a picture of me and Mr. Pereira stood near this car with another African. Just fascinating.
So your mum knows then, if they're in your house, your mum knows the back connection.
Yes, yeah.
And what did she die of?
Right. She died in Monsell Hospital.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I have to research.
Do you know how long they were married?
They were married for 2 years. And in my father's diary, because he documented everything, so I've got lots and lots of diary.
That's unbelievable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And in one of the diaries it said, received a letter from Monsell Hospital to say my wife Alice is very poorly.
Yeah.
So and then he was asking for leave from sea.
Oh.
But by the time he got leave, Alice had died.
Oh.
So Alice was dead. So he came home and...
Oh my God, can you imagine that? You just come home to your wife dead.
Yeah. But he always kept a picture of Alice.
Oh.
Yeah. And then there's a picture of Alice with a child, and it's a white child. little girl got a bonnet on.
Yeah.
And on the back it said, "My wife Alice sent me this photo while I am at sea."
Oh.
Yeah, you get that?
Oh, and I've got to see this.
Yeah, I'll show 'em, yeah.
Yeah.
I'll
have to
show 'em,
come to yours
yeah.
and see it.
Oh, I've got them all in I've got them all very accessible, can get hold of them. Yeah, they're fascinating history.
Absolutely.
Wow, you know.
But just that he's a man. I know I keep saying that, but that he's not a black man or a monkey or a whatever. Do you know what I mean? Or a nobody or a victim of no blacks, no whites, no Irish. He's not. He's just a man.
He's just a man, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then he told me one story. He'd managed to get a room in this house in Liverpool. And the owner of the house was a white woman.
Yeah.
And she used to ask him to clean the front step. I think they had lots of steps on the front of the house, to clean the front steps. And he said, "I would do it." He said, and one day she said, "You haven't cleaned these steps properly," and slapped his face. And there was nothing he could do because he needed the room. Yeah, so it was that kind of degrading, you know, on somebody.
So Alabama-ish.
Yeah, when
somebody
somebody slaps your face.
Wow.
And then my father was, he was a communist.
Oh, right, there's a new angle.
Yeah.
Go on.
And we used to have, he used to have once a week, like these secret meetings.
Oh, right.
At our house.
Right.
And my mum would be in the kitchen and say, "What are you doing, Shay?" "I'm making tea that you drink."
Yeah.
I said, "Well, what are they doing?" And she said, "They're talking." I says, "But about what?" She said, "It's politics." Wow.
So he's an activist as well.
So I found lots of information on communism, and his favourite Russian president at that time was President Khrushchev.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they used to have secret meetings, and there was an African.
Was that mixed secret meetings? Was that black men, white men, or
black men and white men?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And my mum used to say it's a secret.
Yeah.
So I loved it all.
Oh yeah, intrigue.
You must never tell anyone, and I never did.
Wow.
And I said, "It's coming. It's never speak."
Amazing.
It mustn't speak about it. So I found lots of information on communism. And my uncle Ikole, a Nigerian, always used to call me my little Mau Mau.
Yeah. Oh, right.
And I used to think, oh. And I never knew what Mau Mau was. And then when I went to Kenya, 6 or 7 years ago for the first time, I found out what Mau Mau was.
Wow.
And it was a very, very powerful tribe in Kenya. They were called Mau Maus. They were warriors. And a very powerful tribe. And their culture and tradition was based similar to communism. It doesn't matter how hierarchy you are.
Right.
We're all the same. And he used to say, "Come here, my little Mau Mau."
So he was a communist as well?
Yeah, they were communists, all of them in the house.
I don't put Africa and communism together at all in my head.
Well, when I asked my father, I said, "What is it?" He said, "The understanding of the African man being a communist is when you look at Khrushchev. What? He came from nothing, a very, very humble background, and remained humble, but everyone's the same, from the surgeon to the domestic. We need each other. The hospital can't run without the domestic.
It's true.
People can't have operations without the surgeon."
And this is what your dad would say?
That's what he would say. That was the explanation he gave me.
Of communism. Wow.
People, fair, equality. Don't treat me different because of this or because of my religion or, but then it's like the questions that were asked is, does the domestic deserve the same money as the surgeon?
Yeah, true.
It's that kind.
It's true because, like you said, if the surgeon could do a brain operation, but while there's blood on everything,
you
there's nothing. You need the domestic.
It can't run.
Yeah, absolutely. What the hell
without
is
that
do?
sterile environment? There's no way.
Absolutely.
maybe it could run in war because you've got to do it.
No, but even then, because that's what made the difference to the war, wasn't it, with Mary Seacole and Florence Nightingale, and that was cleanliness.
Yeah. Yes.
Was introducing that started to save lives.
Yeah. Yeah. So it was so I found out, you know, it triggered, as I say, from the first interview, Linda, it just triggered. And I kept thinking, going home, happiness. And I got in and I thought, yeah, it was happiness.
And it's like two different people. It's two totally different interviews, and you're like two different people. It's like that we kind of like cling to the negatives, don't we? And we cling to that we was mixed race and had this, and cling to what we've been led to perceive of ourselves.
Yeah.
And look at when you've scratched the surface.
Yeah.
Look at all that's underneath.
Very rich.
Absolutely.
Loving. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
A wealth of information and a wealth of history. Proudness.
Absolutely.
You know.
I'm dying to see this trunk.
Yeah, the photographs.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I will bring them. I'll show
I'll
them.
come to you. It'd be easier. Something's got to be done with this story.
With all
that
the
man.
the
Absolutely.
information and the book.
What's his name again?
Tiamiu Tinambu.
And what a name!
So all my male grandchildren have the middle name Tinambu.
All right.
Because I said wherever you go in Nigeria, if you go, they'll know the name Tinambu.
Wow.
So they love it. And they love the name Ayodele. So,
no, it's a great name.
He loves his name.
Yeah.
Ayodele. Yeah, so thank you.
Thank you, Anne.
Thank you.